My guest today is Will Rush. Will is the founder of Seattle-based startup Stack, the only crypto app, as I understand it, for under 18s. Very interesting. Welcome to the show, Will.
Thank you so much for having me, Andy.
It is a pleasure. And I suppose, look, let's just get this out of the way at the beginning of the show. You and I were just briefly chit-chatting before we started recording. But yeah, I don't know if it's a strange time, and it's an uncertain time, particularly for new crypto investors. And I imagine for your users as well, Will. So just before we get into it, yeah, strange days in the crypto markets.
Oh my gosh, it is really crazy. I will say, I think there's especially for our demographic, which is most likely new investors, new to crypto, new potentially to investing even in general, and certainly a young audience. There is a really cool story and powerful story, I think, of, getting in at moments like this when the market maybe has corrected itself a little bit and things are a little bit cheaper. And, if you believe in the long investment horizon, it can be a really good time to actually get started.
Yeah, I think that is very well said, and I think you make a really good point there, Will. I mean, I think for your demographic, the under 18s, if they are starting out on their investment journey, probably, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I imagine you'd look back on this kind of period from the benefit of, say, 3, 4 years in the future. Probably would be a good entry point, but we'll save that for 3, 4 years in the future. In the meantime, well, let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. I'd love it if you could please just introduce yourself. Love to hear about a little bit about your personal story, who you are, and kind of what you've been doing to lead you on the path to founding Stack.
Absolutely, would love to. Yeah, thanks again for having me. My background personally, so I've been in the crypto markets for as a personal investor since 2015. And during that whole period, tend to be a big fan of Ethereum specifically, sort of followed that since its infancy. And then of course the crypto market in general. I have, from a career standpoint, worked in finance and personal financial products for 12 years now. And so worked with some of the bigger securities firms out there like Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, E-Trade, what have you, Robinhood. And then I've also had a chance to work in this sort of much smaller sector of finance, teen finance, for the past few years. And somewhere in there, it became very abundantly apparent that teenagers were very curious about crypto. And when I first had the thesis for under 18 crypto, it was actually right before this latest crypto boom that we had. And at the time, I was designing an under 18 stock product. And in doing a lot of research, we would do sort of traditional A/B testing where we would keep the image the same that we would put on social media, the words the same. We would change one word, stock to crypto, and we would get 5 times the engagement on crypto just by changing that one word. And so it was very transparent that there was a lot of potential and that the teen zeitgeist behind digital assets was really strong. And so that was really where the thesis for Stack was born out of. Of course, going through a teen financial product, you have to always live in the highest level of security, the highest level of safety. You want to do a fair amount of education on the app. And then you also want to make sure that every decision that you make just from the user experience is truly teen native. And teens are very different, even today, than when I was in high school. And so you want to really lean into that and you want to do justice to their user base. So it's been a really fun app to build. We're still very early. We're still getting smarter every day. We talk with teens every single day, learn something new. And so that's kind of where we are.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to start to learn a little bit more about, well, everything really will, but I'm fascinated by what you mean when you say that, you need to design this app specifically for under 18s or teenagers. And you're exactly right. Teenage digital culture as you'll be much more aware than probably I am, Will, is a unique and confusing beast from an outside perspective. And just one small example of this, and during the course of my research before talking to you, I was just looking through, and one of the things I always do first is go to, the Twitter page of a company or brand or app or whatever it is, protocol. But of course, you guys don't have a Twitter page, but instead you have a TikTok account, which I think kind of is a good way to lead into this, right? Well,
Yeah, no, it's very well pointed. I mean, everybody in crypto lives in Twitter, right? And so for us to not have a Twitter presence, I do think is certainly in the crypto world pretty unique. I do think it's something that we'll lean into at some point, but more broadly, to be truly teen native, we actually do start with apps like TikTok. So the first question that we ask every single teenager that we talk to is, what apps are you using the most on your phone? And very unsurprising responses are always TikTok, YouTube. I actually think YouTube has become the number one way that teens self-educate. Even more so than, I think millennials like myself and even older generations use Google for self-education and Wikipedia. I think kids are much more willing now to watch videos to educate themselves than they are to read articles or do some Googling. And so that's really interesting. And then you think about the product decisions that apps like TikTok have made to do the behaviors that they want their users to do. And so the example from a product perspective that I always use is TikTok. You open the app and you're already doing the two things that the app wants you to do. You're watching a video and you're making their algorithm better, right? It literally opens to a video that's playing and you swipe depending on if you like it or you don't like it. And so it opens you up to that experience. And I think that if you look at finance apps, very few of them do a really good job of this, which is thinking tactically about how their user experience is set up and how their in-app content is set up to be native to your user. And so certainly for these young Gen Zers and eventually Gen Alpha, which I kind of always laugh about that name. But that user group, you need to be more like TikTok than you need to be like the Charles Schwab app, for instance, right? And so the more that you lean in there, I think the better. We have absolutely built our app to have much more digestible educational content, be very visual. And so less words, less reading. And then just some of the decisions of just like, how do we make it really easy to use? How do we use inherent actions like swiping on our app? How do we do some of those things that are already very native to our user group?
yeah, interesting, Will, and that makes a lot of sense. I guess there must be a tension though, Will. I guess specifically with blockchain or crypto, which the UI and the UX is notoriously cumbersome, and the complete opposite of this idea of what you're talking about when you first open up at TikTok, and you almost don't have to do anything, whereas there are multiple steps a typical blockchain or DeFi transaction. How do you kind of talk to me more about this? I hesitate to use the word gamification, but maybe that's right in this case. What do you think?
Oh my gosh, I think it's an amazing question, and honestly, a question that I don't hear asked very often, which is what's being done in the crypto industry to make it a little bit more approachable. Because I think everybody that is inherently interested in crypto understands the technology behind it, understands, the L1s and L2s and all of the, different value adds that they make by having less intermediaries and speeds of transactions and costs of transactions and all those things that, make cryptocurrency great. But I think there's a huge opportunity for the service provider layer, if you will. The layer on top of a L1 or L2 that really allows a user to use it in the way that they want it, right? And the number one use case still for crypto is just investing. And I think it'll certainly evolve over time, and there'll be so many other use cases for it. But even if we can just fill that number one use case and make it much more approachable, and make and do a really good job at just being a front end provider, right? That's all we are. We are an app that makes it super, super easy for a 15 or 16-year-old to go own Bitcoin. And so if you just break down that fundamental layer, that's where there's a huge opportunity for us to present something that's new, that's refreshing, that's different. And then I think there's a secondary sort of a North Star that we always operate under, and that is how do we educate? Because if we are going to make it really easy for a teenager to go buy Bitcoin, we better also do a little, education and allow a user to understand what they're investing in, because our thesis as a company is there are way too many teenagers that are using their social media as their financial advisor. And the more that we can even just add a little, very low friction level of education, we're going to make a much more conscientious investor.
Well, I mean, it's funny, Will, that you say there are way too many teenagers using social media as their financial advisor, because I would hazard a guess there's probably way too many millennials, Gen X,
Right,
Boomer.
right.
A lot of people are doing that, right? But yeah, I mean, I'll take your point there. What do you think the kind of uh, I completely agree. I see this in my son, who is 11 years old. He'll come to me some nights with just a completely random question about, it could be anything, North Korea or a different currency or an obscure politician. And I'll be like, why are you asking me this? And he's like, oh, I've just been watching a video on YouTube. And so, I mean, that is exactly right. And the cool thing about YouTube, of course, is you can watch it at double or triple speed and get through the content, which you can do with podcasts as well, obviously. But, you know, what do you think the average teenager, or kind of your user target base, what is their kind of their worldview on digital assets, and yeah, where are they getting their information from before they start to engage with apps like yours? And what is it that brings them to apps like yours in the first place, Will?
Such a great question. I think that there's almost two distinct users that are in the teen demographic, and one is what we call almost like the super user of crypto, and these are the kids that are using their parents' information to get into a Coinbase account anyway, right? And let's be honest, there are plenty of kids that are doing that. They're already getting into crypto, they're already getting into investing, and really the inertia that we want to solve for that first user is, can we do some inherently interesting education? Can we make a user experience that probably serves them better than a Coinbase, and certainly serves them better than trying to like grab their parents' driver's license or whatever to set up their account. Um, and then there's a secondary user that's curious, but hasn't really dove in the deep end, right? And hasn't watched a lot of YouTube videos about cryptocurrency and the blockchain and what makes it different, and how data is stored and how transactions occur and all those deep things, right? That some of this really, really conscientious child profile that we almost don't even need to market to will probably inherently use our app because they just want to go buy Bitcoin, right? And they already know a lot about it. And I think that second user group is really interesting, because to turn curiosity into investing, I think you need to inherently understand not just the short game of crypto as an investing asset, but longer term as almost like the internet back in 1999 or 2000, right? And the internet then, you couldn't even imagine the ways that it would look in 2022, right? I don't think that you could even imagine at that point that most of the goods that were in your house might have been bought from the internet, right, and showed up on your doorstep. And so there's so many use cases of cryptocurrency not just being an investment that I think we do lean into from an education perspective for teen users. And so to think about your son who's watching YouTube videos and thinking about the impact, of political things happening in the world and in technology, I think this is a really impact driven generation. I think we need to serve not only what is crypto just as an investment and why putting $20 in Bitcoin to see if it goes up or down might be a good decision. And that's just a habit thing, right? You should go invest in any asset right now, $20 as a 16-year-old. And I would give that advice to my own children. And I would give it because just by forming that habit, you can make mistakes, but you make mistakes with $20. And that means that when you have $1,000 or you have $10,000, you're so much more informed and you're much more likely to make a good decision. But number two is, what is it that you're investing in? And it's not just Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatever else today. You're investing in the future of this technology. And more likely than not, you're going to help build the future of this technology. And so I think teenagers are really curious about that. A lot of teenagers talk about Web3 without really even knowing what Web3 is. And to be honest, some days I don't know that I know what Web3 means. It's become such an amalgamation for a million different things. But yeah, I think that those are the profiles that we really are curious about.
Yeah, nice, nice, makes sense. Tell us then, Will, what is the kind of the typical, I suppose, investor journey? What kind of, what is the functionality of Stack in terms of, what can the investor do? What kind of assets can they buy? And, are they kind of, you're talking about $20 a week, right? So are they doing a kind of a typical dollar cost average $20 a week savings kind of strategy, or are they able to play a day trader with $20 as well? What's the user behavior look like, and do you sort of encourage one particular path?
Yeah, no, those are great questions. So the assets that we have on the platform is one of our first biggest decisions, right? Because by limiting the top of the funnel, meaning the amount of coins that you can trade on our platform, we inherently limit a user. And so I would say traditionally, I would rather give people more tools than less. But in this one decision, especially in these market conditions and with our user group, we have chosen to be really thoughtful with what assets are on the platform. And so on day one, you'll only be able to trade 10 coins. Whereas if you're on Coinbase, you can trade, I think, like 180 or more now. And we made that decision inherently because it doesn't mean that we don't think you should invest in more than 10 coins, but it means that most of our users are going to be new to this world. And part of being new to it means probably investing in the things with the highest volume, the things that most of the technology is built on top of, and that most likely have the biggest chance of being around, even in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And so that's decision one. To your point of what strategies pair with that decision, we do a few things. One is savings. Savings, I mean, there's a million studies and just finance in general about how we form as human beings savings habits as early as 7 years old. And so if you can get someone in the habit of taking their money and saving it, that's step one. But most of the time that's in a bank account, or maybe that's literally physically in cash. When I was a kid, it was physically in cash and, a little box in my room. But actually, the second most important decision is now moving that money into something that outpaces inflation, right? And so putting it in the stock market, putting it in cryptocurrency, putting it in some kind of investment that, for whatever reason, maybe you're curious about, but has a very high likelihood of actually being worth more money, right? The longer it's sitting there. And so that's habit one. Habit two is long-term holding, understanding a long investment horizon. And so we're very different from a business like Robinhood, where Robinhood makes more money the more you trade on their platform. Our platform is subscription based. And the reason that we did that is that we understood that if we had a business model that was tied to volume, meaning how often you traded, we couldn't walk the walk with thinking about long-term investing, thinking about passive holding, thinking that by just having $100 of Bitcoin and having it sit there for the next 10 years was actually probably the best strategy. And so I think we're really cost and price sensitive, but we do have a business model that inherently tries to navigate that line thoughtfully and not try to encourage someone to be a day trader.
Absolutely. So, pleased to hear that, Will. So I think you said at the beginning that you started thinking or perhaps even founded Stack just at the beginning of I guess, the most recent crypto bull market cycle. We're now at potentially the beginning or even quite deep into the bear market cycle. Talk to us about, I suppose, some of the the user metrics, in terms of, because it's always hard to get traction at the beginning, right? And then, of course, in a bull market, that's the best time to grow any kind of investing or crypto platform. And then, of course, in the bear market, which is the best time to get involved, people tend to get very disinterested, and you just go into survival mode, right? So, how do you think about all this stuff, and kind of what does your use growth look like in the bull market, and how can you keep it going in the bear market?
Well, I'll try not to have like the most cliche, positive founder, spin on this, but um, I will say that I think this couldn't have happened at a better time for us, to be totally honest. We're an early product, and like any early product, we're trying to achieve the ephemeral product market fit. And to achieve that, I think we just right now have to be the best place and easiest place for a teenager that's curious about crypto to go get involved. And so I think by not being really focused on growth right from day one, because we're trying to catch this upswing of the market, it'll actually help our team focus more on building a really great product. And so I think that's a huge opportunity. And then I also think that, again, it's almost impossible to time the market. And I don't know if I, even as a personal investor, really believe in timing the market. But I do think that there was a Bank of America survey that came out last week that I'm not sure if you saw, mentioned that over 90% of Bank of America customers had planned on investing in cryptocurrency in the next 6 months. And I thought it was a really curious. I mean, inherently, Bank of America customers, I'm assuming, probably are not all crypto crazies. And so the fact that so many of them were still curious, and that was even after, a lot of this downturn, I do think that people see it as an opportunity. And if you believe in crypto long term, you believe that there's going to be, of course, probably many other upswings and many other downswings. And so this is a really cool opportunity in some ways. I mean, it's professionally, I graduated college right after the last recession, and so this is really the first one that like I've lived through totally professionally. And I think there's a huge opportunity because you only get a few of these, in your lifetime, and how you react to them, and how you lean in from an investment perspective, I think can be a huge opportunity. So I think we see that. And then there will be the next upswing, and then we'll be talking about growth and how we pour fuel on the fire and do all those things. And so that'll come.
And I see you have you call it the Stack entrepreneur community. So I guess that's just a little community of your most committed and ambitious users, your power users, if you like, Will. I know it's a small sample size, but I'd just be interested if do you kind of dip into that community yourself, and what are the things they're saying, like at the moment, as we experience this incredible doom and gloom, and that they'll be, I'm sure anyone listening to this who's in crypto will have a kind of similar story of, you see it from the outside, the newspaper headlines, the media headlines, your friends and family who aren't involved kind of poking you, going, how's your crypto doing? All that stuff. Even for those of us who have been here before, you've done a few cycles, you have that conviction. It's not easy, Will.
I think, well, there's a study that was conducted on 18 to 25-year-olds. There, of course, is no crypto data on under 18-year-olds yet, but 18 to 25-year-old investors. And it said that they had 1.3 times more crypto than they did stock. And I think that is incredibly valuable for who is going to drive the next upswing and what it's going to look like. And I think it's going to be our population. And I think that it's going to be college age and, young 20s, because I think that this generation is uniquely, in some ways, even more curious about investing in things like cryptocurrency than they are in stock and other, more traditional investing products. And so that's the long game, right? I mean, that entrepreneur community that you mentioned, what that is, we've discovered our user base, high school kids, they're usually looking for one thing, and that one thing is resume experience. They're having a heck of a time finding a job or an internship, and they are maybe applying to colleges or planning on getting a job, and they want to get some type of professional experience. And so we actually help them stand up and invest in a crypto club at their high school, and we do free financial literacy workshops at their high school. So, help teach about personal finance in general, about investing as a secondary income stream, and then, of course, about crypto, and answer all of those good questions. And through doing that, I mean, we hear about kids that are margin trading, daily, all the way down to like, what is investing, right? Or how do I open a bank account, and everything in between. There is a huge gamut of sophistication, across the high school demographic. I think across the board, maybe the number one similarity is that they're all inherently very optimistic about the long-term opportunity of being involved in their own personal finance, of being more successful in finance than their parents. A lot of their parents don't have good relationships with finance in some way, shape, or form, or direct relationships. And so I think that part of building for these young kids is like the most inspiring part of building stat.
I love it. All right. Well, as we finish off this part of the podcast, Will, tell people where they should go if they're a teenager, or they're under 18, or perhaps they have a younger brother, or they have a son or a daughter. Where should they go to direct these people? And is this for? Sorry, I should have asked this, I guess, but are there any restrictions on, who can use this? Is this for US people only, or how does it work?
Yeah. So they can go to our website. Our website is Trystack, TRYSTACK.io. And so they can go to our website, they can sign up. We currently are only allowing our waitlist users on the app. We're going to do a full public launch to everybody very soon, so they can stay tuned on that. But if they want early access, they can go sign up for the waitlist. And then you also get some free crypto on day one for being on the app. And then number two, if you are a conscientious teen and you're looking to kind of lead the charge in your high school from an investing and personal finance perspective, we'd love to hear from you. Fill out the separate form that's on our teen entrepreneurship community form, and that's a separate part of the website. Within all of this, I think there is a really cool opportunity to even just be curious. Check out our website, check out our blogs, check out all those things. You'll find a lot of good information. We are US only day one. We absolutely plan to expand to a few geographies in the short term. That includes Canada, that includes Australia, that includes a few other similar places. I think we'll think about GDPR being an inhibiting factor of some of the European countries, but certainly thinking about some of those things long term too.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. All right, well, let's go to a very quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll finish off. We'll have some fun. We'll run Will through the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round. Back in 1 second. All right, we are back. And as I like to say, if you've been watching on YouTube, we've been here all along. But I'm with Will Rush. Will is the founder of Stack, which is, pretty much one of the only crypto apps for under 18s, teaching the principles of crypto investing, Web3, all that good stuff. Well, I like to finish each Crypto Conversation podcast with a quick round of rapid fire Crypto Conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
I love it. I'm ready.
All right. I'm just going to run some questions at you, Will. No right or wrong way to answer them, but just give me your best rapid fire hot take style answers. Question one is, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Probably closer to the Bitcoin maximalist, with maybe a long-term view in some of the other opportunities, but currently right now, especially in this market, Bitcoin maximalist.
All right. Well, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. And anyone building in crypto or blockchain will be very familiar with that phenomenon. But with that in mind, cast your mind forward. Anything you like, Bitcoin, blockchain, Web3, What does it all look like in 10 years' time?
Oh, I think we're using cryptocurrency as the wallet for every digital product. And I think it's built for digital. And the more time that you believe that we're going to spend in a digital atmosphere, the more we're going to need to go spend money in it. And cryptocurrency is the native technology to go do that.
Very nice. William Gibson, famous sci-fi author, famously said, Will, that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. With that in mind, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
Yeah, well, I'll choose maybe a non-direct digital asset plug. I think that there is so much inherent opportunity in another side of Web3, which, is the metaverse. I think the metaverse has a ton of opportunity to be the next channel for entertainment specifically. And I think we're already there. I think there are a group of users that would go spend every second of their time in the metaverse if they could, and that adoption level is just only going to go up. And so I don't even know that the future looks that different. Maybe it's like different headsets or different ways to access it. But I think the future is now, and I think we're already there.
Nice. And are you an NFT guy, Will? Are you collecting NFTs?
So I don't collect NFTs personally. I do own an NFT so that I, could appreciate the technology. I'm very high on the future use cases of NFT technology. Do I believe that the future is, JPEG pixels attached? I'm not so sure. But I do think that there are some amazing communities that are built around NFTs that I think are actually, a lot of the things that we look at in building our community and Stack.
Very nicely said. All right, time to get weird just for a second. Time to zoom out. Will, what do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
I see utopia. I think that inherently, the more technology that integrates into our daily lives, the more that we actually tend to solve problems through it. And the more integrated technology becomes in our life, the more opportunity there is for that utopia view, whatever that looks like. I think there's some dystopian, things that might be embedded into the utopia, but I'm much more of a glass half full.
Nice. All right. The only way to be, I think. Let's close this out. Well, finally, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, TV show, or universe?
Oh man, that's a good one. I would probably say I do tend to like growing up. I watched a lot of the X Files, so I like the alien genre in general, and then anything with space. So like I love the movie Gravity, Interstellar. Yeah, so anything that has to do with space or aliens, I'm probably in.
Love it. And well, shout out to the X Files, Mulder and Scully. Yeah, I want to believe. Indeed. X Files was great. Love the X Files. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thank you, Will. This has been fun. I've enjoyed talking to you. Nothing else to say, really, except hand the metaphorical microphone back to your good self. Please tell the people where they can find you on Twitter or TikTok, wherever else you like to hang out on the internet. And again, just where people should go to get on that wait list to join the Stack community.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether they're parents or teens or anything in between that, are interested in getting involved in cryptocurrency, certainly check out our website, trystack, TRYSTACK.io. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Medium. I do a fair amount of blogging in the crypto stratosphere and investing stratosphere. And then, of course, you can always reach out to us via our website or our social media channels. We have an Instagram and TikTok that has a pretty good presence. And we'll probably be on Twitter and some of those inevitable things soon. So check us out on all those. And then, again, if you're a parent or you're a teen, you can join our waitlist and you'll get a little bit of free crypto on day one.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you very much, Will. All the rest, all the best, and bye for now.
Thanks so much, Andy.
All right, there you go. That was Will from Stack. Yeah, cool. Great to see people building products for under 18s to get started in their investing journey. And look, despite the the dark, grim mood across the bottom of the bear market, well, that's always the best time to start your investing journey, isn't it? So who knows? Could be a good time to get involved, join that waitlist. Anyway, thank you to Will, thank you to Stack, and thank you to you, the listeners, for listening here at the end of the show. But this is the end of the show. Thanks, team. Bye for now. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin. See ya.